Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Let's go. 128. Yedi nefesh avarachaman meshoch avdecha el retzonecha yarutz avdecha kemo hayal yishtachaver el mul hadarecha ye'avlo yedidutecha menof etzuf vechol tam Yay, nay, 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 ya, na, nay, 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 ya, na, nay, 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 yay, na, na, nay, nay, ya, na, nay, 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 ya, na, nay, 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 ya, na, nay, 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 yay, nay, nay, yay, ya, na, 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 nay, ya, na, nay, 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 yay, ya, na, nay, 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 ya, na, nay, 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 yay, nay, nay, yay, ya, na, 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 nay, ya, na, nay, nay, yay, yay, ya, na, nay, nay, yay, nay, yay, nay, nay, yay, yay, nay, yay, nay. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to Shabbat Nechamu. So, I know you're not here because of me, but that's totally fine. You're here because of a band that didn't have a name until 10 minutes ago when Mike Zellman gave them one. Welcome, Stedelman. But yes, so it is my great pleasure today. Just imagine that the Bima today is a long, long, long stretch thing out here, and it is my great pleasure to share it tonight with Mike here on the bass and George Baskin on the drums, and our own Ed Lewis on the piano, our very own Bill Lazar on the jazz guitar, and Lori has two personalities today. She's both my accompanist and the fabulous jazz singer voice that we missed last year for the same occasion. So, this is for us the Shabbat of Tu B'Av. And for the visitors who come from somewhere else, you know we're a little early for Tu B'Av, but we don't have a service next week. So we're at least after Tisha B'Av. So today we're in the spirit of Tu B'Av. I wanted to share with you, as an introduction to the service, that there are two Greek words for love and two Hebrew words for love. And I wanted to share with you the meaning of those two Greek words because that's what theologians know. And then I Googled and I realized they actually 8. So just for us to settle in, I want to share with you the list of 8 different kinds of love that Greek philosophers were able to compile. There's eros. I don't need to explain this, you know that. There's philia, affectionate love. There is agape, selfless universal love. That's what I knew. There is storge, familiar love. There's mania, you know that too, obsessive love. There's ludus, playful love. There is pragma, enduring love. And there is philotia, self-love. So, maybe some of them are completely new to you. Maybe it's good to know that there's a word for some things you have felt all the time. I've read this list to you just because to make you aware this is a Shabbat where we celebrate love, but it might not be the kind of love you think of first thing when I say the word love. So I want to invite to the Bima Marlene Lehrer. Are you ready? Because I just want to say this congregation has been thinking and talking about you two a lot. And Jeff, you're very welcome to accompany her for her mitzvah. It is good to have you back. And also I want to say, first Shabbat here, and she made me a huge dinner. I have no idea, thank you, how you do this, but thank you. We are on page 120. Okay, you don't need to do anything, you just need to light the candles. And this might be tricky because the fans are on, but I said it's always harder than we think. Okay, and together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik shel Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Please read with me page 121. The reading begins with, as these Shabbat candles. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we be our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. So, there are two words in Hebrew for love. That may be just a lack of creativity, but there are two words at least, and not just one. One word is the one that you probably know, because it's written everywhere on Hebrew statues and in front of the museum in Tel Aviv, and it is the word ahava. Ahava, we always think is this romantic feeling in our hearts, is red roses and pink hearts, and it is not. Ahava, biblically, and the rabbis had no idea about romance, and in Rabbinic Judaism, doesn't mean romantic love. Ahava, in the Hebrew Bible, is the conscious decision in a specific moment to show up for someone or something. It's not an underlying ethical concept. It's also not a wild romantic feeling that overcomes you. It is an ethical decision you're making. It's an act of willpower. And it has a lot to do with kind of overcoming a part of yourself that might be too lazy, too tired, too, I don't know, something not good, in order to show up. And you decide, nevertheless, to show up. For the rabbis, very interestingly, this decision is not made in the head. It is also made in the heart. It is where you shape your own character. And then there is the second word, chesed. Chesed is what the Greeks would call agape. Chesed is an underlying, continuous attitude that you show towards the world. And it is called kindness, and it is called selfless love, and sometimes in Christian context it's also called grace. It's not in your heart. It doesn't need any conscious thinking process. It is in your hands and in your feet, and it is in your mouth. Because this is how you express kindness and selfless love. every single day. So, in Judaism, ahava is really important. But much more than ahava in general is ahavat chinam. And this is a very important concept because it means you're doing the ethical thing to do even though you get absolutely nothing out of it. It's an act that you perform because it's right, even though you might not profit from it at all. So tonight we're going to learn more about ahavat chinam and the plain opposite, that is sinat chinam, hatred that doesn't benefit anyone and is still performed with great eagerness. But before we go there, I want to give you a moment to listen, to think, to reflect a little bit about the different kinds of love you have encountered in your life so far with these 4 amazing men and 1 amazing singer. And I believe Ed Lewis has something to say about the musical choices of tonight.
So, is this on? So Rabbi came to us and said, would you play and sing some love songs? And I first thought, well, I guess there's a lot of them. How are we going to pick the ones we want to play? And immediately thought probably the best approach into this realm would be the Great American Songbook. These tunes that you know from Broadway and Tin Pan Alley, they go back to the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the 50s. And the amazing thing is, as some of you know already, having listened to my spiel last year, almost all of those songs from the Great American Songbook were written by Jewish songwriters and lyricists. And you know them by name, George Gershwin and his brother Ira. George and Ira Gershwin wrote many of these great tunes. Rodgers and Hart, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Lerner and Lowe, Kander and Ebb, Leonard Bernstein, and the list goes on and on. And there's something very interesting about many of these tunes. What makes them, why did they come from Jews, and what were they trying to tell us through these songs? And what you see is a very predominant theme that many of these tunes go from the major key, major chords, to the minor chords. And they start off quite often in a very optimistic, positive way, but at all times the Jew is looking over his shoulder about what's about to come. Is there heartache back there? And then these tunes move into the minor key. And almost all of these are love songs. And the first one that we're going to do tonight is actually written by a great writer from the Great American Songbook who wasn't Jewish, and that's Cole Porter. And there's an interesting story because Cole Porter was having dinner with Richard Rodgers in London, and Cole Porter started out and he had a bunch of flops. His songs weren't selling, his shows were flops. And then, as he said to Richard Rodgers, he said, but then I learned how to write Jewish. In other words, he started writing these tunes from the major shifting into the minor, and they all became great hits. And this first tune is probably a good one to start off with because we're talking about love, different kinds of love. And the name of this first tune is, What Is This Thing Called Love? And I'll give you the lyrics, and then we'll play it for you. What is this thing called love, this funny thing called love? Just who can solve its mystery? Why should it make a fool of me? I saw you there one wonderful day. You took my heart and threw it away. That's why I asked the Lord in heaven above, what is this thing called love?
I'm just going to let this song speak for itself. If I expected love when first we kissed, blame it on my youth. If only just for you I did exist, blame it on my youth. I believed in everything like a child of 3. You meant more than anything, all the world to me. If you were on my mind both night and day, blame it on my youth. If I forgot to eat and sleep and pray, blame it on my youth. If I cried a little bit when first I learned the truth, don't blame it on my heart, blame it on my
So, can you hear me? So this next tune is Softly as in a Morning Sunset, or Sunrise.
Yeah, the sun usually sets. There we go.
Softly as in a morning sunrise. So here's the lyrics. Softly as in a morning sunrise. This is Hammerstein and Romberg, 2 Jewish kids. Softly as in a morning sunrise, the light of love comes stealing into a newborn day. Flaming with all the glow of sunrise, a burning kiss is sealing the vow that all betray. For the passions that thrill love lift you high to heaven. There's a lot of heaven in these songs, isn't there? Yeah. Lift you high to heaven are the passions that kill love and lead you down to hell. Same old story. Softly as in an evening sunset, the light that gave you glory will take it all away.
I used to live a mile and a half from Oscar Hammerstein's house, and I've done a lot of performances there. So anything by Oscar, special place in my heart. This tune, Rogers and Hart, speaking of Hart, H-A-R-T, he had a really sad ending to his life, but boy, was he a genius. So this is My Funny Valentine. Oh, it is? My Romance is next? Okay, forget that. But that's by him too, them too, right? Rogers?
This is Rogers and Hart.
Yeah, okay, so we're on the same page now. We're gonna do My Romance. My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky. My romance doesn't need a blue lagoon standing by. No month of May, no twinkling stars, no hideaway, no soft guitars. My romance doesn't have to have a castle rising in Spain, nor a dance to a constantly surprising refrain. Wide awake, I can make my most fantastic dreams come true. My romance doesn't need a thing. My romance doesn't need. My romance doesn't need a thing but you.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, and you shall love God your God, and you shall decide to show up for God right now. Page 146, please rise for the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Please be seated. 148. Baruch אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בדברו מעריב ערבים, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים. 150. Ahavat Olam, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel. אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגי יומם ולילה. ואל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. 154. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. Page 158. מי כמוך? מי כמוך? Who is like you? Among all gods in this world, no one like God. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ובניך בוקע ים לפני משה, זה לי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יעני You must allow me sometimes. I do want to say the songs are the same as every Friday, and we do have some concert pieces here tonight, but you should still sing along when you know the lyrics. And if you don't know them, then sing Yai Dai Dai. It's a good tradition, Yai Dai Dai. We are on page 62, Vishamo. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לדורותם ברית עולם. Forever and ever, it says at the end of this song. So, this is a sermon about love, but it's not romantic love. Yesterday, as a matter of fact, because we're a little out of sync here, yesterday was Tisha B'Av. Yesterday was this moment of the 25-hour lasting fast day. It is also, and I'm very sure you're all watching the news, and you're all reading a lot of politicians and rabbis this way, it is a Tisha B'Av that brings Tisha B'Av closer than in other years, maybe ever during your lifetime. This is a Tisha B'Av where the Jewish people is divided. This is a Tisha B'Av where you see Jewish policemen wrestling down Jewish protesters on the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And I don't think anyone here in this room has ever seen anything like this before. The story of Tisha B'Av is the same. It's about a people that is divided. It's about 50% of people who are warriors and want to rise up against the Roman oppressors. And it's about 50% of rabbis and their followers whose main goal is the survival of the Jewish people, no matter the price. On Tisha B'Av, we remember the victims of this civil war in the middle of an actual war against an enemy. The victims and the survivors, which is us. The breach of the wall and the breach of the Jewish people. The breach in our history, where so often our people have fallen into two halves. It is also the beginning, and I learned this from Kyle here, of a survival recipe of the Jewish people. When this happened, we didn't blame it on God. We blamed it on us. Mipnei chata'enu, we say since then. It was because we sinned. It is because we let this happen. It is because we fell apart from the right path and we indulged in gluttony and idolatry and ideolatry and all kinds of things. It is because we let this happen that our people became divided. The main story of Tisha B'Av, and you will love about this, it starts with a dinner invitation that went out to the wrong person. Instead of Kamsa, they invited Bar Kamsa. And Bar Kamsa showed up, and they said to him, actually, you're not supposed to be here. We want you to go home. We intended to invite Kamsa. And Bar Kamsa went home, and he became so angry that he smuggled into the flock of animals to be sacrificed during the next morning an animal that had a blemish in its eye. So you will say, what's the big deal? The big deal was on the next day, the Roman emperor was supposed to come to visit. And he was told that this sacrifice, this ritual, would be unfolding in his honor. The priests were a little loosey-goofy that day. So when the sacrificial animals were presented, one of them had a blemish. And the priests on that day decided to ignore the law in honor of the Roman emperor. And they brought an impure sacrifice on that day in the temple because politics seemed more important than Jewish values. And this is how the temple fell apart. Mipnei chata'enu. But we're not here to commemorate Tisha B'Av. We're here to commemorate Tu B'Av, the Jewish Valentine's Day, as we say. Jewish Valentine's Day, ha. Jewish Valentine's Day starts with a story in the Torah that is atrocious. It's misogynist, it's murderous. It's about someone who throws their partner out in the street to get gang raped for the entire night. It's someone from the tribe of Benjamin who commits this crime, and to take revenge for this atrocious deed, the tribe of Benjamin almost got eliminated among the tribes of Israel. There was a civil war, a breach among the Jewish people, 11 tribes against this one. And only when they won, and all the Benjamites were dead, did they think about what to do to make sure that the tribe would survive. And they instituted a law that once a year, on Tu B'Av, the women of the tribe of Benjamin could go out and choose husbands from other tribes. Very feminist, to kind of counterbalance the beginning of the story. Choose husbands from other tribes and make sure that the tribe of Benjamin would survive, even after the atrocious crime that was committed, and even after the enormous bloodshed among the people of Israel that had occurred. It was a conscious choice, a very conscious choice in this very moment to show up for the sinners and to make sure they will continue to live. It was an act of ahavat chinam, selfless love, because in all honesty, they would have gotten more land if they had the tribe die out. So why am I saying all this? Lovely stories. Shabbat Shalom. I hope you're feeling uplifted. I'm saying this today because it really got me thinking this year that we celebrate these 2 days so closely to each other. I'm also celebrating it, I'm also saying these things today for very personal reasons. As many of you know, I'm European. As many of you maybe ever never thought about, I'm also millennial. So, standing here as a European millennial, I can share with you, I grew up in a world that was absolutely fine. We did not need passports. There was no war. I learned French. I was actually fluent. And I used to go there on vacation because it was very important for the European politicians to foster European understanding. We saw, and we thought actually, Turkey would become a partner within the next 2 or 3 years. We thought Ukraine would become a part of the EU within the next 5-10 years. In the last 3 years, and actually that's not even true, maybe since I grew consciousness of the rest of the world, I and the rest of my fellow millennials have been very busy to understand that the world is actually not fine, that war is a possibility, and that borders and separations between people do exist, and it only takes a pandemic to make them rise up again and become impermeable. If we look to Israel, we realize a similar thing. Israel is on the edge of a civil war. War is an actual possibility in the air. There's hatred, there's violence, there's an absolute lack of will to compromise on both sides. And if we look into this country, about which you know much more than I do, you realize that is true for here too. There's an absolute divide in this country. There's a lot of hatred and a lot of tension, and it's getting suppressed every day. But as we maybe all know deep down, suppression is a recipe that will only last for so long. It's not going to work forever. So, millennials used to think the world's okay, and we get very confused and angry and overwhelmed if it is not. And we are asked to work too much, and we don't get our coffee. I know. But it is also true that it's really painful and really overwhelming to realize, for me personally and for you too, that the three parts of the world in which Jews are most at home are all living in a really dire tension. The world today is very fragile. Whenever the Torah speaks about love, ahava that is, a very conscious decision to do something to show up, even if we don't profit from it, it's usually in the framework of a commandment. Ve'ahavta lere'echa kamocha. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Rea doesn't mean friend. Rea means an associate or a neighbor. It's someone with whom you share either property or a neighborhood or a passport or whatsoever. It might not be someone you know. And love your neighbor, show up for your associate human beings as you show up for yourselves. Our neighbors are sometimes very anti-Semitic. Our fellow Jews are sometimes very different from us. Our neighbor, our country here, the very land, is on fire. Sinat chinam, this strange outburst of hatred, of which we all know that in the end no one's going to profit from it, is everywhere. Violence is everywhere. Jewish history teaches us but one thing. Don't be so afraid that you stop to think clearly. Be afraid, and be very aware that you're afraid. Do everything within yourself to overcome every trace of sinat chinam. If you have reasons to be grumpy, complain. But there's a difference between disagreement and outright hatred. Judaism and Jewish history also teaches another lesson. Actually be ready. The thing you might not want to happen, it might happen. It is a possibility that the walls get breached and the city will fall. It is always a possibility that there will be war, even civil war, within the Jewish people. And it is always a possibility that it happens during our lifetimes. The maybe most important lesson of Tu B'Av, which is the celebration of a war that happened for a righteous reason, and an attempted ethical cleansing that wasn't committed, even though it was possible to do that, is that every war one day is over. And if you're the kind of human being who can then, that day, look into the faces of your enemy, or maybe into the faces of their children, and you will be ready in this moment to make a very conscious decision for ahava, for a love that doesn't ask about the past, for a love that doesn't only, profit you personally, but for a kind of love that is necessary to build a world together on the basis not of sinat chinam, but ahavat chinam, selfless love, selfless, ethical, consciously committed love. Then we can build this world, maybe again, but we can build it from love. There is no other way. Happy Tu B'Av. Shabbat Shalom. ואהבת לרעך כמוך associate like you love yourself. Ah, let's do it like this. Let's go to page 164. We'll pray together the Amidah, the history of the Jewish people. And when we go into silence, I leave it to you to either sit with the traditional words of our liturgy, or listen to the words of the love songs, or just sit with your own words by yourself. 164, 2 more minutes, and then you're on. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagitei latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Please be seated.
This is a love song to a tomato. This song is by a group called Pink Martini. It's very self-explanatory. The sun has left and forgotten me. It's dark, I cannot see. Why does this rain pour down? I'm gonna drown in a sea of deep confusion. Somebody told me, I don't know who. Whenever you are sad and blue, and you're feeling all alone and left behind, just take a look inside you and you'll find you've gotta hold on through the night, hang on, things'll be alright, even if it's dark, not a bit of spark, and sing song sunshine from above, spreading lanes of sunny love, just hang on to the vine, stay on, soon you'll be divine. If you start to cry, look up in the sky, something's coming up ahead to turn your tears to dew instead. And so I hold on to this advice, when change is hard and not so nice, if you listen to your heart the whole night through, your sunny someday will come one day soon to you.
Our next tune is from Brazil. It's part of the Bossa Nova movement. It's Black Orpheus. It was a great movie if you've seen it. The tune is by Louis Bonfa. I'll sing to the sun in the sky. I'll sing till the sun rises high. Carnival time is here, magical time of year. And as the time draws near, dreams lift my heart. I'll sing while I play my guitar. There you go. I'll cling to this dream from afar. Will true love come my way on this carnival day, or will love stay in my heart? Will true love come my way on this carnival day, or will I be alone with my dream?
funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart. Your looks are laughable, unphotographable, yet you're my favorite work of art. Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? Are you smart? But don't change a hair for me, not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentine, stay. Each day is Valentine's Day. But don't change a hair for me, not if you care for me. Stay, little Valentines, stay. Each day is Valentine's. Each day is Valentine's Day.
So our final tune is How High the Moon. Somewhere there's music, how faint the tune. Somewhere there's heaven, there it is again. How high the moon. There is no moon above when love is far away too, until it comes true that you love me as I love you. Somewhere there's music, how near, how far. Somewhere there's heaven, it's where you are. The darkest night would shine if you would come to me soon. Unto you will, how still my heart, how high the moon.
and you shall love your community. A commandment that is not written in the Torah, but it should be there. Don't you agree? So if you play an instrument and you think you can hide it from me, trust me, I will figure it out and I will make you play, because I take this saying in the Torah very seriously. You shall praise me with all your instruments. So, all of them. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to all 4 of you, 5 of you, for bringing music here to this community, being a part and being a guest and therefore a part of this community. Thank you. I invite you all to go to page 371. We'll finish the service with a Mishaberach. We're still saying Mishaberach for Arthur Kinoy, the brother of Maggie Oldershaw, an uncle of Barbara Oldershaw, Marilyn King, Mike Zell, Rebecca Stanfield, Chris Godlewski, Cynthia Wexler, the mother of Diane Kirsten, Lieselotte Adler, the mother of Phyllis Lefan, and mother-in-law of Al Lefan, Kyle Sorensen and his family, and both parents of Linda Nalick. Jeff Lehrer, husband of Marlene Lehrer and Marlene Lehrer. And Chad Thomas, son-in-law of Alex and Monique Summers, Wendy Marcus, and Bob Wild, Ezra Sixstock, and Fern Levin, the mother of Randy Levin. Do you want to add any other names to the Mishaberach Lecholim, the Mishaberach for the sick? The people of Israel. Page 371. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor habracha Limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Please rise. We're on page 598, the Mourner's Kaddish. 598. We're still in the Shloshim for Henry Bertucci, so this community is remembering especially one of our own members, but we're also always with Dan. Dan and your son Kevin, page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביום חון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו. לאלה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיא, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו amen. So, as it is our new custom, you can stay standing for 30 more seconds, and then I invite you to leave this place because we're not eating and drinking here anymore, and you go to the adjacent social hall. Where? Because you had an extra portion of Sitzfleisch tonight, and because it is Tu B'Av, and Sid is amazing, we will have chocolate-covered strawberries in honor of Tu B'Av, and also challah and grape juice and wine. So please stay standing. You may hug, you may touch hands. If that's too awkward, don't do anything. Then just be happy that you're here. Adonai v'yishmerecha, Ya'eh Adonai panav elecha v'choneka, Yisa Adonai panav elecha, ve'yasem lecha shalom. May God bless you and protect you. May God's light shine upon you, and may you walk and live in this light every single day of your life. Shabbat Shalom. Please go there. Please don't stay. Go there.